Hi, this is Mark Bowser, and today I want to share with you another excerpt from my book that I had the honor of writing with American hero Danny Lane. Danny is a Vietnam veteran, earning 2 Purple Hearts in that war. Now, this particular excerpt has to do with 2006, so not too many years ago, and over 30 years from the war, close to 40 years from his time over there in 1968 and 1969. You see, many times people don't understand what our war heroes went through while they're on the battlefield, but they don't understand what battles that they fight, as well as their families, many times for the rest of their lives. And so this particular excerpt comes from the prologue of the book, and I'm just going to read to you part of that so you can experience a little bit about what Danny went through and what his family was going through in 2006 that was directly related to his experience in Southeast Asia in 1968 and 1969. Late September in West Virginia was normally cold and crisp. This year, 2006, was no different. As a hazy fog began to roll in over the hills, the frail man in his mid-50s staggered to his feet. He was wearing only a pair of black shorts that hung on his emaciated frame. Hard gravel crunched under his feet, then a wooden beam, then more gravel, then another beam. He walked on the tracks as the whistle grew closer. The Amtrak train had arrived right on schedule. He collapsed on the gravel beside the railroad tracks. Startled by the blaring siren of the fast-approaching Amtrak train, he labored to open his eyes and was blinded by the oncoming light of the locomotive. He lifted his head in the approaching light, and water dripped off his head and hair. A drop landed in his right eye, and the man slowly wiped it away. He then closed his eyes as if to entrust his fate to the oncoming train. At that moment, a nearby drunkard staggered forward and shoved the man hard off the railroad tracks, narrowly saving his life. As the train passed, the man struggled back to his feet. Now, let me just kind of break away here. You see, this was many, many years after the war. But what was going on in Danny Lane's mind, what was going on in Danny Lane's body at this particular point in juncture in 2006 that is directly related to what he went through in Southeast Asia? You see, our veterans, they deserve not only our gratitude of what they went through during the war, but what they go through every single day. So long story short here, what had happened was he was able to stagger on. His life was pretty much saved by that drunkard who just kind of pushed him off the tracks at that point. And so Danny kind of struggled a little bit more, and let me just go on a little bit more of what happened. The man's eyes wandered and tried to focus on the blurred image of the Kroger supermarket in the near distance. Struggling towards the parking lot, he stumbled through the automatic door and into the brightly lit grocery store. The man needed help, and he wanted help. But no words came from his mouth. Finally, he was overcome with weakness and fell, his head hitting hard on the concrete floor. A Kroger cashier looked over the counter and shook her head in disgust. Just another drunk, she thought to herself. She picked up the phone and dialed 911. 911, what is your emergency? This is Brenda over at the Kroger store on First Street. We have another drunk passed out on the floor. No shoes, no shirt. He's unconscious. The man struggled to form the words he needed, but was only able to quietly whisper, Daniel Edward Lane, United States Marine Corps, number 2461294. No one heard. The police and EMS arrived together just a few minutes after the 911 call. They did a quick examination and quickly lifted the man on a gurney and into the ambulance. He appeared intoxicated, but there was something about him, something different. As the ambulance sped to the hospital, EMS called into dispatch. Unit 410 running code to St. Mary's. White male, mid-50s, unconscious, no ID, possible concussion. Vitals are not good. Call ahead to have the trauma unit on standby. 10-4, 410. I will notify them, came the immediate response from dispatch. The driver stomped hard on the gas pedal. He had the feeling that time was a commodity that they were running short of if the guy was going to survive. On arrival at the hospital, EMS hurriedly pushed the gurney through the large glass sliding doors and into the ER. Dr. Shane Bowen moved hastily to the door as soon as he heard the ambulance pull up. Who do we have here? Don't know, Doc. No ID. Just walked into the Kroger and collapsed. Possible concussion. He has a knot on the back of his head, and his vitals aren't good. Okay, let's get him into the room stat. Get that IV hooked up, and let's run vitals again, said Dr. Bowen. After a few minutes, the man was hooked up to an EKG machine with an IV running from his arm to a bag of clear liquid on a pole next to the bed. Dr. Bowen scratched his head. Who was this mystery man? And what was going on in his body? Dr. Bowen looked towards the police officer standing nearby and asked, "Do you have any information on this guy yet?" Now I'm just going to stop right there just so this video is not too long, and I'll have another video here which will be labeled Prologue Excerpt 3 that you can listen to a little bit more of this particular story. But what was going on in 2006 with Danny Lane? What was our war hero experiencing that was directly related to his experience in Vietnam? Book's called Some Gave It All. It was an honor to be able to write this with Danny, to write his story down. You can get it at a number of places. You can get it at Amazon.com. You can get it at BarnesandNoble.com, a bookstore near you. Or if you want an autographed copy from me, then go directly to my website, markbowser.com/SomeGaveItAllBook. And the link is in the video description as well. Thanks for listening today. God bless you.